Hey, what's going on, everyone? Good morning and happy hump day. This is Taylor checking in for the Wednesday, May 3rd pre-market prep. The Fed Day special, Apple earnings special, and post-AMD earnings special. So AMD last night announces earnings, and that bad boy is down about $6 or $7 here. So AMD said to open around 83-ish. So pretty much right down towards the recent lows. Now, this was a name that a few weeks ago we were talking about that negative break in momentum. And lo and behold, on your negative break of momentum, the easy part of that push higher was kaputs. So AMD getting tossed around a bit. And then for Apple tonight, Apple's kind of cruising here right into earnings. So one thing that Henry continues to quote over in the options room is that big monthly squeeze. Let me do a little math here. Apple trades 168. All-time high at 183. So off the top of my head, no calculator, 168 up to 183 is a 8.9% move. Pretty interesting. If earnings goes well, and can happen. Mainly if S&Ps can fire their weekly squeeze. Apple earnings goes well. Next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks or so, S&Ps finally fire the weekly squeeze to the upside. I don't know if Apple will necessarily, make a brand new all-time high, but you're not too far off here. And then, of course, tonight earnings could come out and Apple could just, get totally slammed. But for today, guys, got JP and the Fed. And now coming into the week, what I was looking for was for the S&Ps to test and potentially trade through that 4,200 level. So on the SPY, that would be your 420 level. And on Monday morning, we're kind of within a stone's throw from that level. And you get a bit of that, retracement into the close. And then, of course, yesterday things got pretty nasty. However, not a terrible close from the bulls. All right, they're able to get it back above that 4,100. They're able to get it back above that daily 21 EMA. And in the process of doing that, your daily structure, and a little bit more important to me, your bullish daily squeeze, for now is still intact. So the bigger picture hasn't changed where you have that nested squeeze dynamic. And remember, the weekly squeeze has been printing since December. But for the time being, you have that nested squeeze where weekly chart prints a squeeze and a buy signal. So weekly bull squeeze. And then inside of the weekly bull squeeze, your daily chart prints the same thing. Squeeze and a buy signal. So what that does for the market right now, and of course it could all change today. But for now, what that does for the market, in my opinion, is it just sets the stage for that potential push higher. Like, it's just kind of a probabilities game. If you got a daily squeeze with a buy signal inside of a weekly squeeze with a buy signal, it is a pretty decent probability. For now, at least, those squeezes want to fire to the upside. But heading into today's trade, here's the issue for now. Weekly chart sets the stage. Daily chart sets the stage. We don't have anywhere for a big directional push across the lower time frames. Now, mind you, with yesterday's flush, that's actually pretty decent at yesterday's close. S&Ps are down, I think we were down not quite 2%, but we were down pretty good yesterday. To finish the day pretty much just neutral. No sell signals, no red flags, just a little bit lame. It is a little bit impressive, but point being, what we need here in order to see that daily squeeze to fire north and to get that push towards 4,200 would be for, today, tomorrow, and then into Friday for the lower time frames here to flip bullish. 5-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour. If they can turn the corner and if things can clean up here from the ground up, then you might see that push higher. So I think a big level to focus on for today and maybe next couple of days here, your hourly 21 EMA. So we had talked about the other night, the idea of that, all right, we had a good push. You got your short squeeze. And now maybe before we can break above that 4,200, maybe we got to pull back to an hourly 21. And then we kind of take it from there. Well, of course, yesterday the market had different things in mind. We did come down to that 21, but we sliced through it like warm butter. So my thinking is, all right, if we can get back above the hourly 21 and then continue to rebuild and potentially into Thursday or Friday, you start seeing that push back towards the upside. Under the hourly 21, if we can't go through the the cleanup process here, I don't think it necessarily means we're going to fall apart. But if you can't get back above the hourly mean, then the idea of a push into 4,200 into Friday, to me at least, is a little bit unlikely. Doesn't mean we don't get there eventually. And, so long as your weekly chart and your daily charts are looking pretty, we probably do get there eventually. But that's the key. You need your lower time frame trigger. So we shall see how things go today with the Fed. And outside of that, guys, I don't have too much for you this morning. To me, it makes a little bit more sense to, see what Jay Powell's got to say today. Kind of get through that reaction. Try to get through Apple tomorrow. And then I think you're looking at more directional trades. Kind of get through these two major catalysts or potential catalysts. And then you take it from there. But let's check out the squeeze radar. So we got a handful of things here on your lower time frames. Into the open. So on the 15-minute, you have bull squeezes in coin, TLT, and gold. Right, some super sexy stuff right there. For bear squeezes on the 15-minute, you have NVIDIA, Meta, Tesla, ABBV, and a couple more there. 5-minute, let's see, Microsoft bear squeeze, Tesla bear squeeze. So check this out. Speaking of nested squeezes, Tesla's got that big triple nested squeeze. 30-minute, 15-minute, and the 5-minute. Let's go take a look at that. And even if you're taking your trade off of you're trading the 30-minute squeeze or you're trading the 15-minute, get your bigger picture context. So if I'm going to entertain the idea of getting short on a 15-minute squeeze, I'm still going to see what's going on the daily. Right? I want the total picture. So the total picture here in Tesla, and keep in mind it's based on my signals, so perhaps a bit biased, but daily chart says lower, 4-hour chart, 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute. So that 15-minute bear squeeze isn't really going against the bigger picture. It's a little bit more in line with it. So let's go check it out. It's all pretty fresh too. So 30-minute squeeze. Inside of that bad boy, 15-minute bear squeeze. And then there's your 5-minute bear squeeze. Some squeeze on squeeze action. So if the market gets creamed today, might be worth a look. Couple bull squeezes on the banks, Goldman, Bank of America, and get a bunch of stuff here on the 3-minute. But like I mentioned, I don't think it makes too much sense to read too much in between the lines until we get through the Fed. So I wish y'all the best of luck today. And if you got any questions, anything you want to take a look at, let me know in the chat. And then that's it for me today. I got today off. No watch room, no nothing. And if for being honest, it does make me a little bit sad. So I'll be in the background all day. Crazy Bernie, do I know about the naked POC? I don't, but it sounds like a good time. The naked POC. I've heard of point of control, but not naked POC specifically. So maybe something JC or Danielle, Sam, Cody. Maybe something they could help you out with. Anish wants to look at you. So there was a pretty juicy short here. And maybe the short is still juicy. But back up here near that 21 EMA, coiled up in that daily squeeze, that's a nice entry for a short. Then you catch the squeeze firing short. And now you're breaking support here. So all of my signals say short it. Out of the 8 time frames here, 6 of them are bearish. Daily, 4-hour, 2-hour, the 1 hour, the 30, and the 5. But it's a matter of getting a good entry. Meaning you could short it this morning. It rallies all the way back to $28. Under that daily 21 EMA, still probably a pretty good short. So I do like it for lower prices for now. Now the opposite trade would be they break support, trigger all the stops, rope everybody into getting short, and then pop it right back above that 26 level. So what I would want to see here for that bear trap dynamic is all the lower time frames flipping bullish. They rope everybody into some puts, then boom, back above support. 5-minute goes bullish, 15-minute goes bullish. Could go either which way. Yeah, so McV, the nested squeeze is something you can use, really with any of your momentum indicators or structure indicators. If you got a combo of indicators that you would deem to be your quote unquote buy signal or a sell signal, you can use those with the nested squeeze. But as far as the thinking behind the nested squeeze, it's kind of like that potential domino effect, where the thing to keep in mind is the rule of thumb with the squeeze, at least the rule of thumb that John has taught, and it tends to be within this ballpark. Once the squeeze fires, typically going to look for 5 to 8 plus bars of momentum. So when a daily squeeze fires, there's that potential 5, 6, 7 plus days of pretty good direction. So when you get a nested squeeze, where as far as the S&Ps go, inside of the weekly squeeze, the daily squeeze is also firing, there can be that domino effect, where if the daily squeeze fires and gives you that nice push for 5, 6, 7 plus bars in the process, it could cause the weekly squeeze to fire long. And then the weekly chart gives you 5, 6 plus weekly bars to the upside. So that's the thinking behind it. It's just, squeeze on top of squeeze on top of squeeze. When the squeeze on the lowest time frame fires, it can trigger the next one, it can trigger the next one, so on and so on. So for me, the key is, are all these squeezes with my indicator pointing in the same direction? If my weekly squeeze is bullish and I got the buy signal, and then my daily squeeze prints a sell signal, I've actually got no clue what to do with that. Weekly says it wants to fire long. Daily chart says it wants to fire short. We have this divergence. But if they're all on the same page, yep, structure, momentum, everything lines up here on a weekly chart to print the signal. And then your daily chart, your structure, your momentum, everything lines up here as well. Everything kind of, everything on the same page can give you that potential domino effect. So that's the thinking behind it. So you can look at, say, Tesla, and if that 5-minute squeeze that meets all of the bearish criteria right now can fire short, that could trigger the 15 to do the same. And where I could entertain that idea of trying to play that short is because my 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute, they're all in alignment for a flush lower. If the 30-minute was bearish, 15-minute was neutral, 5-minute was bullish, it's kind of a tough read. You got this one pulling you this way, this one pulling you that way. So that is that's the thinking behind it. Good question though. Crazy Bernie, have a great day. Thank you for stopping by. Amazon, yeah. Heard of this one once or twice. I really couldn't tell you what to do with it right now. Because I wouldn't know what to do with it right now. All right, so the first thing that catches my eye is that 7 of these 8 time frames are neutral. Weekly, daily, 4-hour, 1-hour, 30-minute, 15, 5-minute. Neutral means there's no probabilities here of, hey, path of least resistance is to the upside. Buy calls and sell puts. Or, hey, like a Tesla, path of least resistance is to the downside. Buy puts or sell calls. This is just like, We're not bullish. We're not bearish. We're not locked and loaded for a push higher. We're not locked and loaded for a flush lower. We're just kind of floating in space. So to me, those are always a tough read. Reason being is I can look at that Tesla chart and say, hey, for now, I've got 3 very clear reasons to work that short. I got a 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute squeeze, and they're all printing a sell signal. That's my edge. That's what I'm going to anchor to for that trade idea. And the beauty in that is, if any of that changes, if the reasons I take the trade to begin to start to disappear, I should probably question whether or not I want to be in that trade. I can't look at Amazon just yet and say, hey, here's why I would get long. Or here's why I would get short. And I'm a firm believer, have 1 or 2 good indicators, or a combination of indicators, and essentially let the indicators make that decision for you. I'll trade anything as a general statement, but I'm going to let the pretty colors dictate when, where, and how I trade it. Not an opinion on Amazon. Not going to base a decision based on what I think should happen. Hey, what are they telling me right now? They're telling me, Taylor, we've got nothing for you. No juice, no ammo. Yeah, maybe 15 minutes from now, that all changes. But a bit of a toughie for now. Jimmy Vo. I like that name. How would I look for a short in Apple? Um, do you mean before earnings? If you're thinking doing it before earnings, I think you kind of treat it as like a lotto ticket, meaning the expectation is the trade doesn't work. The assumption is Apple doesn't fall apart, and then you position the size accordingly. I just say that because one, earnings can be an absolute coin flip. We've seen some of the ugliest charts in the market gap up after earnings, and some of the prettiest charts in the market do the opposite. But Apple's just kind of cruising here. So better yet, let's just pretend earnings aren't around the corner. All right, forget earnings. We're just focusing on the chart in front of us. At the moment, nothing telling me the train is coming to a screeching halt just yet. Daily is bullish, weekly is bullish, 4 hours bullish, 2 hours bullish. Deep in the background, you got that big monthly squeeze. In other words, nothing telling me, hey, look for a short. So that's what I would have to wait for. Something like, say, a Tesla. Never mind the fact that Tesla's daily chart is pretty ugly. Right, it's a little bit more about the lower time frames. Tesla's giving me something here from the ground up to work that short idea. That 30-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute nested bear squeeze. Where Apple isn't giving me that trade just yet. So for me, the real answer is, you've got your playbook as a trader. You've got the trades you take when you get long. And you've got the trades you take when you get short. For me, each playbook just has 2 trades. If I'm going to get long on any time frame, I'm either buying a dip to a 21 EMA, or more often than not, I'm buying a squeeze. And I'm only doing that on things with my buy signal. So I've got 2 trades if I'm getting long. Any stock, any time frame. Wait for a buy signal, buy a dip, wait for a buy signal, get long in the squeeze. And then the short side is just the opposite. So for me, the real answer is I would short Apple when I've got a playbook trade here to the downside. On Tesla, I have one of my playbook trades. What am I looking for if I want to get short? Squeezes. Squeezes with sell signals. I got 3 of them here on Tesla. At the moment, I don't have anything telling me to work that bearish playbook on Apple just yet. So if I was going to take, a lotto ticket ahead of earnings, that's one thing. But as far as the structure and the pretty colors for now, it is one of the names here holding up pretty good. Could all change tomorrow, though. Okay, so good question, Jimmy. Would it be a bad idea to look for bearish micro squeezes against the higher time frame squeezes? So not that it's a bad idea. So what Jimmy's saying, guys, is all right. Here's Apple in a nice daily squeeze. We got a buy signal. From the top down, it's all looking pretty bullish. So Jimmy's saying under these circumstances, where you're generally lined up for higher prices, does it make sense to try to get short in a 5-minute squeeze? So Jimmy, I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think you got to be understanding of what you're working with. Meaning, in my opinion, I would look at a 5-minute bear squeeze in Tesla as something that potentially could lead to a much bigger flush. Because that 5-minute bear squeeze is kind of in line here with those bigger time frames. My 5-minute squeeze, as far as momentum and structure, it's on the same page as the daily chart. I'm not going against the tide. Where if Apple gives you a squeeze on a 5-minute chart for a short, I'm not looking for that to collapse Apple. If anything, that 5-minute short just takes you down to a buy zone. So I think you just trade it accordingly. Be a little bit quicker to take profits. Identify some levels where, hey, if I get short Apple and we're pulling back to, an hourly 21 EMA, that might be a spot where it finds some support and potentially catches a bid. Where for me with a Tesla, it's a little bit more, hey, let's see if this thing can start really bleeding out here. So awesome questions. And yeah, Jason, I've been working a couple of tweaks here over the last week or so, and it's pretty big time. So I'm going to be shipping off the update here very soon. There was something missing, and I kind of couldn't quite figure it out at first, and then it all clicked. So I'm super excited. So I'll get that pushed over to Eric ASAP, and then the team will do their thing. And then I think I've used up all my updates for for the first half of the year. They're going to fire me if I keep doing updates. The unfortunate thing is it does create a decent amount of work on the back end, which I wish wasn't the case, but if my kids are interested in trading one day, this is what I'm going to give them. Uncle John's squeeze and the buy and the sell signals. So for those of you that have been going along with the journey, I definitely appreciate the patience. But hopefully y'all can appreciate, we didn't didn't put out an indicator and then just kind of put it on the back shelf to collect dust. As y'all know, it's the only thing I'm using. And then maybe a discussion for another day. I'm kind of going through this internal crisis right now. I'm kind of considering no longer looking at the low compression squeezes. So it's one of these things where your low compression, mid compression, high compression. Say your low compression squeeze on a compression rating is 2. Then the mid compression, which is the OG signal, that's 1.5. And then the high compression squeeze, that's a 1. My favorite by far is the mid compression. But then a part of me feels like I do miss out on some decent stuff that can happen on the low compression side. So I'm kind of going through this little experiment where I'm wondering if the sweet spot, kind of like the Goldilocks and the Three Wolves or whatever it was, the sweet spot might be in between that mid compression and that low compression. But a different discussion for a different campfire. And James, I think the 10x bars are awesome. And originally, when we built the big 3 signals, that was part of the criteria. So in order to print the buy signal, the 10x bars had to be green. The whole process, guys, has been trying to speed up the signals, but not to the point where things are noisy. Like really my goal is I want to catch the meat of the easy move. Want them to get me in early enough and get me out early enough without too much fluff and too much noise. So originally I was using the 10x bars. And again, I think it's a great indicator. But what I realized was, for my style of trading, by the time the 10x bars went green, a lot of times the easy part of that move was already over. So what I did was, my momentum ingredient, I swapped that out for the MACD. So now I'm using the MACD with the 24, 52, and 9 settings. That's my momentum piece of the puzzle. Roland, any chance AMD can bounce? There's always a chance. The better question is, what's the probability? It looks like we're going to open up directly near your least, right near your recent low. So could it bounce? Yes. Is that a spot where it should bounce? Probably. Sam did a pretty good video on this a few weeks ago, or maybe about a month ago, where he talked about, you've got your trend support, your 21 EMA, your 50 SMA, your moving averages, and then you have structure support. You take out your 21 EMA, you take out this recent low, your next big level of structure support is down here around $78. So kind of working off of if-then statements. If we can't hold the recent low around 83.50, then I think we could come down to your next level of structure support down around 77. And then, of course, Roland, a big piece of it could also be the market. Aside from support levels, aside from AMD itself, is your general market catching a good bid? Bulls got anything going to the upside here? You can imagine if the S&Ps get hammered today, QQQ gets spanked today, semiconductors get spanked today. Well, then there's kind of quote-unquote no reason for AMD to trade higher. But if after the Fed, the S&Ps are screaming back to 4,200, QQQ is pumping, the rest of the market's kind of getting it going, then the question is, all right, can AMD hold some key levels and potentially moves higher with the market? We shall see. We shall see. Do any of you plan on doing any earnings trades for Apple tonight? Have to see what the expected move is. Trying to remember, I think Meta made a bigger than expected move. Microsoft had made a bigger than expected move. Google did not. That was pretty much within the expected move after earnings. Kind of forget what they priced into to Tesla here. But yeah, folks, we'll see what Apple's got tonight. We'll see what Mr. Jerome Powell has got this afternoon. And then I'm sure there's going to be a link in here somewhere. But JR has got a webinar tonight. And it sounds like enough people have been asking him to reset his futures account and his mastery back to 10K. And his goal is to run that 10K up to $1 million. So I personally have got my 10K put aside, but definitely should be a good webinar. Check that out. But otherwise, folks, we'll get through the headlines here today, and we'll see what this market's got for us next few days here. So as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I will talk to y'all soon. Adios. Have a great day.